tour guide Dave again with the next episode of my virtual spooky tour here at Dundonald Castle. It's going to be a good one, this one. I hope you like it. So we're going to start off in the ground floor of the castle. So this is obviously the bit that you'll first see when you walk into the castle. You can see that in the current shot. So we're down in what would have actually been the cellars, so it wouldn't have been a big open space like it is now. It was subdivided up into smaller areas. Where the walkway is in the top left of the photograph there, that's where there would have been ceiling. So everything above that is a separate room. That's what we call the lay hall. So that's where the banqueting hall was. But now, as you can see, it gives us a nice open space for functions and stuff like that. And one of the things we do a lot at the castle is educational work. We do a lot of work with schools from really all over Ayrshire and Glasgow as well now. It's grown out of all proportion in the last few years. And we put on a lot of different activities depending on what the theme of their visit is. And we try to have little things that we can add and change to make it more interesting for us as well as them, to be honest. And one of the things I got one of our guys to do was to make me some little figures out of old pallets, actually. Little men that are about the size of a 6-year-old kid. We were going to use them in a sort of medieval jousting, fighting, hunting game. And I took them home and I painted one up just to see what it looked like. And I thought, actually, he's got a real personality, this guy. So I had 4 made all together. So I made them up. I painted them all up and I brought them up to the visitor centre and showed them to our manager, Kirsty, and she thought, they were great. And she said it might be a nice idea to take them up to the castle and we can sort of take photographs of them and maybe use them in sort of social media. So over time, we've actually got about a dozen of them now. I've got a couple of ladies and some animals as well. But these guys here are the original 4. So this is the original boy band. And we took them up to the castle and we took some silly little photographs. I mean, this is one here, just that sort of thing. So that's actually Hamish at the front, the angry Scotsman. He's actually named after my very good friend Hamish, who's probably the angriest man I know, actually, and he's been photo-bombed by one of the other characters. And we had at the time, right at the top of the castle, one of the rooms was closed off because we'd lost some of the stonework and it was about head height and it was sort of rough, so we couldn't let you in that bit. We acquired from somewhere to do a traffic cone just to close it off. And I just thought it might be enough to take one of the men up at the top and stick the cone on his head like that statue in Glasgow. I think it's Duke of Wellington, but it might be funny to take a photograph of him with the cone on his head. So I took one up. I don't have it, so I probably binned it. It was probably rubbish in the end. But I came back down the stairs, so from the top, down the spiral staircase, and turned right onto the balcony, so through the door where the guard was in the last episode. And I said something to Kirsty, and I don't remember what it was. It wasn't anything important, but it's the sort of thing you would expect an answer to. And Kirsty, she didn't reply. And the thing you need to know about Kirsty, she likes to talk. Every summer her tongue gets sunburned, if you know what I mean. So it was out of character for her not to reply. So as I'm walking along the walkway, I sort of look down at her and she's staring at a point about halfway along the balcony, the walkway, and she's as white as a sheet. And when I got down the servant staircase, down to the cellar, I said, "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." And she said, "I just had the strangest experience." She said, "When you were at the top, this white mist appeared, and it's an oval shape, and it was on the walkway, and it was solid. You couldn't see the wall through it. And I was just transfixed by it, she said. And then she heard me coming down and she thought, oh, thank goodness, I won't be alone with this thing, if you like. And Dave will see it as well and, can confirm that it's there. But as soon as I got onto the walkway, it sort of shot off. Actually, I think she said in my direction, but I didn't see it. I didn't feel anything. I didn't see anything. Strange little thing there. You might remember from one of the previous episodes, my friend Colin saw a mist sort of walking along the walkway towards the prison. So I don't know if that's connected. Don't know. So while we're on the subject of school visits, there's a little thing that occurs with regularity, actually. I mean, up until the time we had to shut everything down for the lockdown, there was a little thing that would occur regularly. I mean, we get probably 2 or 3 school visits a week when it's busy, and I would say this thing happens probably about once a month. It's got to the point where I don't even remark on it anymore. I'm sort of expecting it, but I need to set the scene a little bit. So when the kids arrive, they get off the bus about 10 o'clock and they're met by some of the people, and they do about an hour's worth of work down the bottom of the hill. They do some model work, understanding the history of the castle, the background to it, and they get dressed up in medieval clothes. The people that meet them are in medieval clothes as well. But before the kids arrive, I'm already up at the castle. I have to put a lot of stuff out. I have to get bits of armor, bits of weapon out that I use for my bits. I have to get the little figures out that we mentioned earlier, and there are hobby horses and plastic lances that we use in that as well. And I have to get all my clobber on as well. I tend to put that on as late as I can because it's actually really, really warm. And in fact, there's a photograph here of me dressed up, waiting. This is a morning before the kids arrive, so this is about 10:30, actually, and that was taken by a German tourist who was in the castle looking around. So, and I think you'll agree I was looking particularly awesome that morning. You're welcome. So, if we go back to the original photograph, so this is the one of the ground floor, and you see in the background there's a table there with a flag on the side of it. I use that table as part of my presentation, so that's piled up with bits of armor and weapons and stuff. And the benches that you can see on the far right of the photograph, they're actually placed in front of the table, and the kids sit on those. And the kids they're facing the table. So I'm stood in front of the table, the kids are looking towards me, so they're facing the table. And this thing that happens, as I mentioned, is the kids on the far right, so my left, so the far right of this shot, if you like, the kids that are sat on the far right of the bench, they get distracted by something on the walkway. So sort of in the doorway, the guard's doorway again, they become distracted by something. I can see them looking up, they're sort of nudging their mate, pointing and laughing. I've even seen them wave. And the thing you have to remember is, because I've been in the castle already for an hour, I know if there's anybody in the castle. So if there are people actually, because people still come and do tours and visits and that. So if I know there's people in the castle, I obviously have to disregard that, 'cause it could just be them. But when I know there's nobody else in the castle apart from me and the kids, and they're pointing and waving at someone, what can they see? And bear in mind, since they got off the bus, every person they've seen has been in medieval clothes. So if they happen to see some other person that I can't see, then that person is wearing medieval clothes and is maybe sticking their head around the doorway and is waving at them or something. They'll just think it's part of the show, really. They'll just think it's one of us. And I remember one day I was kidding on that there were guards who had been marching around the castle checking on them, so behave yourself sort of thing. And I remember one day I was kidding on that there were guards who had been marching around the castle checking on them, so behave yourself sort of thing. And behave yourself sort of thing. And the kids were looking at something that, I couldn't see, and I wanted to try and find out what it was without. I didn't want to frighten them. I didn't want to say, "Oh my God, you've seen ghosts." So I said, "Oh, what are you looking at, girls? Have you seen my garden?" I said, "Let me know if you see him again." At which point, the little boy who sat next door to them, he points up at the walkway and he says, "Well, he's just walked along there twice." So there you go. He's obviously seen something I haven't seen. But so, like I say, this happens with regularity. About once a month, the kids start waving at something that shouldn't be there. But I've got an idea actually as to who they might be looking at, who they might be waving at, and this is because one night we had a book signing, so we got a load of local authors that came up to the castle, and an audience, and they sort of presented little snippets of their book, and then there was a book signing afterwards. So you could buy a book and they would sign it, and there was maybe 4 or 5 of them, and I'd volunteered to give people a tour at the end of the evening if anyone was interested. I'd take them around the castle, and with that in mind, because this is at night now, I'd got a bunch of portable sort of spotlights, to light up the bits of the castle that aren't lit at night. So the spiral staircase and then on to the top floor. So they're all there, and they're all on, ready in case somebody wants a tour. And then at the end of the evening, it becomes clear that actually nobody wants a tour. So, okay, I'll go and get all the lights down and lock the place up again. So I'm walking towards the servant staircase, and I hear somebody call my name, and it's a lady who knows the castle well. Actually, she helps us with a lot of functions and stuff, so she knows the layout of the castle. And she said to me, she's pointing up at the walkway and the guard's doorway again, and she says, "Dave, is there anybody up there?" And I said, "No, it's all closed off. The outside gate's closed off. There's no one there." And she said, "Well, that's really strange, because all evening I've been seeing people up there." She said, first of all, it started as just shadows, and then they sort of developed, if you like, into people. And she said it was a teenage girl and a smaller child. They were together and they were looking round the doorway, and they were pointing at people and laughing at the jokes that the authors were saying as part of their sort of book signing. So I know there's nobody up there, but this lady is clearly seeing something. And I just remember while I'm walking up the spiral staircase and onto the top floor, so I'm getting further and further away from everybody else, I'm thinking, I wish she'd told me this after I'd looked up rather than before. But that's why you should never volunteer for anything. Now, moving around that view, if you like, the view of the ground floor that you can see here. See right at the back at the top, there's a big window. Now that used to be the outside wall of the castle. So there was a window on the outside wall, but there's now an extension behind that. And oddly enough, when you look at it from the other side, so when you look from the extension side, it actually looks more like a doorway than a window. I don't know if it is. I mean, I know that end is where King Robert and his descendants would have sat when they were entertaining in that room above. Now, that's his end of the castle. Whether there was access through from the extension into that bit, I really don't know. It would be a little bit strange, but there are little bits of this castle that are a little bit odd. So the reason I mention that is we had another function one night, and it was a professional medium, and I must admit I wasn't there, so I didn't witness it, but this is what I was told afterwards. And he does his thing, and at the end of the night, a number of people, they approached the members of the staff that were on duty, and they said, "How did you get a member of staff up into that window?" And of course, the people on said, "Well, No, we didn't. You can't. I mean, you can't get up there. To get up there, you'd have to climb on top of the prison and then up a long ladder and then up into that bit. And it's just, you can't go up there. It's filthy. I mean, the birds are up there, so there'll be bird droppings everywhere. You know, we just wouldn't put anybody out there. It's just wrong on so many levels from a health and safety point of view. But these people were insisting that they'd seen someone up there, an elderly gentleman. Like, we're going to put an elderly gentleman out there, but they said there's an elderly gentleman. He was dressed in medieval clothes, and he was looking down at this medium and shaking his head. I like to think that's the ghost of King Robert, looking down at this guy and just passing opinion on what he thought of the show. Okay, so one final story about this part of the castle. On a normal day, when we have a tour guide on, when you buy your ticket from the visitor centre, often the people behind the counter will say, we've got a tour on today, and it's Dave, or it's John, or it's Liz, or it's June, whatever. So at least you know the name of the person when you go up there. And on this particular day, our tour guide was a lady called Sheena. And there's two ladies buy tickets, and they're told that Sheena's the tour guide up there today. So they go up the hill and they go into the castle, and they're expecting to see Sheena. And they said they walked in and sat in the alcove, sort of really just to the right of that shot, just to the right of where the table is. They said they walked in and there was a lady in a long brown dress sitting down. And they obviously assumed that this was Sheena. And then they did what everybody does. They looked up at the ceiling, because when you're not expecting it, that the ceiling is really, it's a real surprise. It's a magnificent piece of construction. And everybody just stares at that for the first sort of 5-10 seconds. And then they look back to where they thought Sheena was, and there's nobody there. And then a minute or so later, Sheena comes down. She's been at the top of the castle with somebody else, and she comes down, and they suddenly realise that the person that they'd seen was not Sheena at all. We don't know who she is. But we may have heard her voice. And here's why I say that. So we had a couple come into the castle one day when I was tour guiding. They're a local couple. I think it was from Kilmarnock. And they said, if it's okay with you, we don't want a tour. We just want to wander around the castle on our own, and make some recordings as we go around, because we like to visit old castles and churches and whatever. And sometimes we sort of pick up sounds that you can't hear just normally. And of course I said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. As long as I was joking. I said, if you get anything, you come back and let me hear it. Not expecting to see them again, but because it's quite common for people to come up and try and make recordings. This couple's technique was different. They just wandered around and chatted amongst themselves. Most people have come up, use this sort of question and answer technique. Is there anybody here? And tell us your name, and they get nothing. But this couple were just walking around the castle and chatting amongst themselves. And when they left, I didn't really expect to see them again. And then the following week, they came back and they were so excited. They said, "Hey, Dave, you need to listen to this. This is incredible." And I honestly believe that this couple are genuine. I think what they recorded is absolutely genuine. I don't think it's fake. Just from the way they were when they were with me the first time, and their reaction when they came back, they were so excited. They almost couldn't believe what they'd got. And I think it's actually really exciting what they recorded. So they started off on the top floor, and I don't think they got anything from that. I don't remember them getting anything there. But they came down the stairs and they were in the part of the castle that's just outside the prison. And in fact, you may remember on one of the previous episodes, I mentioned there was a couple that saw an old man go into the prison and not come out again, and they were concerned for him. But this is that couple. And when they were there, the lady trips. There's a couple of sets of steps, and she trips over one of the sets of steps. And on the recording, you can hear her trip, and then there's another female voice. Now, bear in mind, at the time, there's only the three of us in the castle. They're in the bit outside the prison, and I'm down in the ground floor. So they're on their own up there, and there's a female voice. And as this lady trips, this female voice, she just says one word. She says, "Oops," and that's it. Like you would do, if someone trips in front of you and you sort of go, "Oops," and you might put your hand out to something falling. That in itself is not much, but I think it's a nice little touch, And then they walk onto the walkway, and the lady says something. She just puts this sort of question out there, to her husband. I wonder what it was like back in the day. I wonder if it was cold and dark. And actually, it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been cold and dark because they're in the banquet hall. It would have been warm 24/7. I think it's always busy in there. But there's a voice that is picked up, and again, I think it's female, but I'm not absolutely sure because it's just quite a hoarse sort of whisper, and it says, "So cold, so dark." I think it's actually referring to now, because now it's cold and dark, especially when we lock up and go home. I think it's referring to now, to be honest, but I don't know. And then they get to the far end of the walkway, so they're just about to come down the servant staircase. I'm at the bottom in the cellar area, so where we've been sort of at the start of this. So as a crow flies, I'm about 10 feet away from them, and you don't hear it live, but on the recording, you hear a female voice singing for a few seconds. And actually, I've heard that on a number of occasions. I've heard it live. I think the very first time I heard it was actually when I was actually doing a tour, and it's really strange. You're trying to concentrate on what you're doing, and there's someone behind you singing, and of course you look around and there's nobody there. Oddly enough, when it happened, the couple that I was with, they didn't react to it, so maybe they didn't hear it. But you can hear it on this recording. It's not words, it's just some sort of la-la-ing, really. I get the impression it's like someone going about their sort of chores, that sort of thing. And then they're coming down the servant staircase. Now, if you don't know the castle, this is like a covered staircase, and it follows the line of where the servants used to sort of scurry up and down from the cellars up to the banqueting hall. And the original stairs have either been robbed away or they're just in very bad condition, but we've had to have them reconstructed. And they are quite large steps. You do have to be a little bit careful when you're going down these steps. And on this recording, you hear the lady say, "I just need to be careful on this bit." And then there's a female voice again on the recording. I can't remember the exact wording, but it's words there to the effect of, "Yes, just watch yourself on this bit." So you hear on the recording the lady say, "I need to be careful here," and another voice says, "Yeah, just watch yourself on this bit." And I think that's amazing, really, because that raises so many questions. When people are walking around in the castle, are they being accompanied by people that we don't know are there? Is this a one-off? Is she just with them because I'm not with them? So maybe she feels she needs to be with them. The fact that she's listening to their conversation and she's joining in. So again, is there something that's happening all the time? Am I doing a tour and then I'm giving what I think are the correct facts, and is there a voice that I can't hear that's saying, "David, no, how many times have I told you Or is it just because they've cottoned on that these devices that people walk around in their hands now, they can pick up their voices? So, maybe it's just when people are walking around with their, with their phones and recorders. But the most important point I want to make here is we've sort of been brought up, fed on this diet of anything to do with ghosts has to be scary. Victorian ghost stories right up to modern TV programs like Most Haunted and Ghost Adventures and whatever, and everything has to come to a climax and everything is scary and they're out to get you. Well, just that one sentence that lady says, just watch yourself on this bit, that gives a lie to that. She's actually showing concern for their safety. She doesn't want them to hurt themselves, That seems to be the theme of all these stories that I get told or things that I become aware of. They're not out to get us. They're either having a bit of fun or it seems that they're actually looking after us. This might sound a little bit pompous, and please forgive me if it does, but when myself or one of the other tour guides is taking you around and we're telling you the story about the castle and the people that lived there and how the castle was used, we're reminding people that these people lived once. We're telling their story, if you like. We're giving them a voice, and maybe they appreciate that. Okay, I think that'll do. I hope you enjoyed this little series of my virtual tour anyway. I might do a little video just to recap this once we can get back in the castle, just a little short video, just running around the castle just to visit the places that I mentioned in these talks. But if you can, please come and visit us, say hello, and maybe I'll see you around.